I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Lori, why don't you move down this way? This is a work meeting between 5 of us. That's why I'm sitting here. I'm not gonna yell to be on there.
Can I, yeah. This is as you heard, this is a work meeting. We're not taking any comments from the public, although everyone's welcome to attend. We may call a couple of people who are here for information as needed, but this will, and all comments will be directed toward the chair. Thank you. There will be no public comments, no citizens forum, and we're hoping to resolve budget questions as best we can. Thank you. So we had a budget advisory committee. They met on Thursday, and I don't know if that's where we want to start or we start laying out where we are with the budget.
It's not there. Well, then if we get another figure we're looking for.
No.
Okay, the budget advisory committee met. They did not come up with all of the specifics. That's the thing we recommend. Just there's still more that they wish. They did come up with a total tally. That was $5,625,000. Why?
Versus.
Right, so that's the target. That's what they voted on.
Okay.
All right, if we don't reach that target, I would assume that people would be upset on the VAC and not recommend the budget.
And that's basically a $200,000 cut from what is proposed. And it's also about almost a little less than 200,000 of the full. Currently,
Right.
I'm just doing that for public clarity. Well, that probably sounds reasonable. The devil's in the details.
Yes, sir. Where do you wanna go?
I'm reading your sheet unless you want to.
I can leave if you like, it might help.
That's where I'm trying to read your sheet, and that would be helpful.
Instead of staring at a bunch of nothing, we can look at some real numbers. Just go to the copy, I guess. So, the first one I gave you there is it's extra here, if anybody else wants to help yourself. So after the meetings, the proposed budget back on October 20th was, you can see the numbers here. And then the final, after all the meetings, was V4. And basically, it got pared down $17,000 after all the budget meetings and discussion. Bob said that, DAC voted for $5,625,000, $200,000 less than V4. I think the significant part is they were discussing the 24 budget and really not V4. They were just looking at, above last year's budget. And if I'm wrong, let me know, Bob. I think that's pretty much how the discussion went. So the next line down, you can kind of see what last year's budget was. What V4 was, what the VAC recommended. V4 was $476.75 or 8.9% over last year's budget. VAC recommended $272, $266 over last year's budget, which is 5.1 rounded. All of these numbers include COLA and step increases. So, if you look down at the default category, which Lori's provided us, you have the default number there, 5438. And the V4 budget was 390 over that, and the BAC was 186. So, last year's number, and Lori threw it out, I already knew it, was this, the consumer price index is 3.5% in New England. And so you can see the numbers there. I just kind of went down to see where the pricing is going in our region. That makes sense. You guys follow me so far?
Absolutely.
So, I had done this analysis, about 2 months ago. So you can kind of see where the consumer price index increases should reflect about 187. And we're down at 272 with, according to the BAC at 5.1. So basically where Bob stated.
I'm sorry, you said we're at 5.1. What does that number reflect?
That's percentage over last year's budget.
Right, but that's including steps and
Correct.
A 3%.
Like I said, yes.
Right, well, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, all this first page includes step and everything. Okay. So basically, as Bob indicated, if we want to have a budget passed, default doesn't buy anybody anything, and I'm fully aware of that. Bob probably won't vote for it, and the VAC probably won't vote for a proposed budget. So let's look at what they proposed. A $272,000 increase over last year's budget. Where's it going? So what I attempted to do here was identify things that are pretty much fixed based on the hearings that I've been to. Of note, the default budget basically reflects the 2 police officers, more or less, if I'm not wrong. So, I think you gave me a number. I used 85,000. The default versus, last year's budget's about 86, I think. I just rounded to 85.
Can I interrupt you right there on that
Yeah.
number? Because it's a question related to it. Does that 85,000 reflect the benefits that go with it, retirement and health insurance and everything else?
Yeah, in the default, yep, for those 2 positions.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
So the number she gave me is actually 86 and change, but I just kind of used 85 or round numbers in my number in here. 1,000's not going to make a whole lot of difference when we're talking these numbers.
Let me
So-
just clarify something I just.
Yeah, right.
Laura, you said the 86 is included in the default?
It is, yeah, because both of those positions were approved last year, and so it is included in the default.
Well, those would be in the default,
Correct.
Yes.
so. All right,
So, are you with us, Bob? Yeah, okay.
as long as-
So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm taking what the BA said recommended for an increase and figuring out where it's going and what we got left. Okay? And are you with me, Laura?
Yeah.
So as I go down where I wrote fix there, I basically have PD. Let me change pages because mine makes it just because mine's scratched. I tried to organize this a little before I got here. So 85,000 represents those 2 positions we were just talking about. And I went right off of this B4 item here. And we can go through the pages if you like. It might help you if you have it. I went down the list, and so 1828 is coming from the town office. It's an audit, and the town report increases. 10,000 was added to legal. 4130 was added to town buildings health insurance. $1,000 was added to town buildings general supplies. I questioned whether it's fixed, but I thought maybe I used it. There might be a need because there's people here. 10,514 is insurance, workers' comp, general ledger.
That's an increase.
That's correct. I put 38,500 in the ambulance.
I'm sorry, the insurance increase though was change of plans. Is
No,
that the
this
case?
one is workers' comp and general liability, like property and liability if somebody should fall.
Thank you, okay.
If you go back up, Carl, the town buildings health insurance is basically a change to 4130. Be with me.
I can't find it.
It's-
Oh, yeah,
The fourth line down.
Right, thank you.
That's basically a change. So the workers' comp, and that's an increase. The ambulance is in here, the pay for the increased ambulance. I don't know whether you've spoken to them, have you?
I haven't been able to get a hold of Bill yet.
All right, I ran into Bill yesterday afternoon late, I let him know what we're proposing, 85, didn't seem to go over well. So I think we need to keep a question mark in that bucket. But for now, I'm using that number. Our mutual aid increased 2220. Solid waste has got an increase of 6694. Numbers I plugged off of the report. Welfare is 13,867, and it's all, and I put question mark is fixed, as you can see. And all the library increases are in there. So out of that 172,266, we consumed 180, not call it $190,000 roughly of the increase. There's $82,000 left out of the recommendation from the Budget Advisory Committee. So I went a little bit further to things that have been added. I just called them variable for lack of any other word. There was an increase in the code enforcement. Assessing was increased. There were wages in the town office. Planning department had an increase. The Board of Adjustment had an increase. Cemeteries had an increase. Emergency management had an increase. And I put an increase in there for highway labor because Mike hired someone for a couple bucks an hour more than the guy left. Okay. So that variable list comes out to 60,000. So out of the 266, we spent 250,007. So at least $21,000, just short of 22, left out of the Budget Advisory Committee's recommendation. None of these numbers include STEP or COLA. So I don't know where it's coming from. My understanding is that, are you with me, guys? We don't have anything for STEP or COLA. So my understanding is, which I personally think is wrong, but let's figure it out. My understanding is that the COLA is going to represent, call it 60,000, maybe give or take a little bit more with some benefits and stuff. Am I wrong? I think you gave me 67 initially. You gave, the
Okay.
difference was 58 today, but there may be some benefits or other add-ons. The original number was 67 for the COLA,
So.
which we're close.
We're close, okay.
So, so if we're looking at a COLA of 60,000, and if I'm wrong, let me know, but I'm going to pick 65 somewhere in the middle, Laurie.
Can we step back 1 second?
Yeah.
BAC also recommended not calling it a COLA, but calling it a raise. A COLA would extend to all employees. This might not necessarily extend to all employees.
Right. I'm just kind of using numbers here, Bob, so we know what we got to work with. We don't have much to work with at this point. We're 120,000 short of any raise.
What you're saying is to call this a raise, no. Cost of living adjustment is different raise.
Right. That's fine.
Well, there's a certain distinction between the two.
So, should I use somewhere between 60 and 67?
So can I just make
Yeah, yeah.
a comment?
Absolutely.
A couple years ago, the board had voted to go by the social security cost of living increase for the COLA.
My question.
That's what I just said. This is not a COLA.
Okay, so you guys would be taking the COLA out and replacing it with something.
would be called a raise.
Okay,
That's what the VAC is recommending, spoke to.
so there'd be a raise and a step.
If we can,
I think we gotta get to where we know where the money's coming from first. We got amount, we've got to figure out the money side of it, any raise, increase, step, anything at this point. Because the $21,000 remaining of the Budget Advisory Committee's recommendation, we don't have enough either.
All right.
So in
Pretty
the
simple.
past, we have gone with social security numbers, and these are the New England CPI.
Yeah.
So what is the difference? Do you know if the social security is different?
It was more like, I think it was 2.5%.
That's what I thought.
2.7.
And we haven't gone with the social security numbers in the past. I remember the first couple of years,
2.5.
2.5.
Do you want me to do a red book at 2.5?
It would be useful.
Actually, I don't think that's gonna help much.
Okay,
How much, there was a real discrepancy of what people thought. Cutting the raise from 3% down by percentage point.
Right. I remember
If it
that.
goes down 1 percentage point, what is the savings?
so I can do that on my spreadsheet.
Hey,
Just
Brandon.
changing a couple, two.
58 divided by 3.
Yeah. Give me one second.
Figure that was
Which works in this.
10, so.
I want to encourage, I'm sorry, I want to encourage people not to talk over each other. If someone's talking, please wait till they're done. Thank you.
So a 2.5% COLA.
I think we can divide 187 by 7 and multiply by 5 would give us the number. If the,
So this takes into effect, consideration all of the Social Security, Medicare, NHRS. So the difference would be $9,760,
Oh,
dropping it down
1%.
half a percent.
Wait a minute,
18.
what are we talking, 1% or a half a
A
percent?
half a percent.
It's 18,000 for 1% bump. Within a few pennies.
It was great differences as the but I think it was stated.
So,
So 3% cut in a raise would equal approximately only $30,000.
So taking the COLA away from all employees.
The raise.
Okay. So 0% COLA is $58,516.
repeat that number, please.
58516.
what is that?
58516 is no COLA. That's everything else remaining the same. just
5.8, what?
516.
Okay.
And that includes benefits. I mean,
Yeah, NHRS.
Withdrawals,
Security.
yeah.
So 5.8,
516.
5.16 is everything minus the COLA.
Yeah.
But you sent me this morning that it was 577,993. So we're $100,000 difference. because I asked you this morning to give me the proposed budget number less the COLA and what the proposed budget was without the steps, both. So I had a number for each item. You sent me back 57793. Could have read it wrong, but proposed before budget figure with only step increases, with only one step, total budget would be 5770. 58,000.
57793 from 58, 16 is $723.
That's a full
Okay.
step, the COLA, which she had said.
That's correct. You
This
saw
was,
the email.
this was for COLA. This was removing the 3% COLA,
Right,
we would
just taking-
save $58,000.
58,000.
That's what she said.
The other number was for, removing the step increase and keeping the
I'm
3%.
trying to figure out what the 5743 is. The bottom line is, I mean, I can just, I've done some bunch of numbers, but you're gonna need, in the 120 to 130 range to do both at 3%. The COLA amounts to about 65,000. So in the $21,000 short, where's it coming from? And that's only, that's only steps.
And that's not including what was proposed by departments, correct? That's only with the necessities over last year.
That's only right out of this report, what's in there, with the exception of the police officers. We're not even in the neighborhood to achieve that number. So we can go down through this list. Basically, we gotta come up with $120,000. So let's open our pages. I have done some homework on it. So just, I'll run some quick numbers here that I did 2 weeks ago, before the last meeting with the select board and BAC. I started with the default budget, because really I think that's kind of our baseline. It has the police officers in it. And that's what we're gonna be arguing against, I suppose. I took that number, the default, so just so you know where I went. I took the default number and I added planning, code enforcement, at what was originally proposed, the police shift differential, the overtime at 10 grand, a 2.5% step, 60,000, 4,500 for assessing, 2,200 for mutual aid, 7,000 for solid waste, 14,000 for welfare. That adds about 139,700 to the default. I added 85,000 for the ambulance. And I added that before last week's meeting when it was discussed. And so that adds 224,000. And then I had the library cost 14.5. It's actually a little bit less, but that's the number I was using a couple of weeks back. And that comes out to 5677962. 677,962 if you want, Bob. I can copy this. And so that's adding $239,000 to the budget, to the default budget. And it does not include a COLA or raise, whatever you.
So in order to get above the default budget with the fixed cost that you mentioned, but we still have $21,000.
Well, if, with these numbers in here, you're at 239,200. So based on the advisory committee's recommendation, you have 239 from 272, what is that, 30,000 bucks? 272. Where is that sheet?
I don't necessarily disagreeing with you with us at, 567792. The recommendation from there was 5625, that's 52,962.
I'm working on the default though.
Gotcha.
Okay, so there's an $86,000 difference already.
Right. Got it.
Okay, so you.
I do.
I mean, if you take that out, the 86,000 out of that 56,77962 minus, I plugged in, 86, I think, in this numbers. When I was doing this, I just took math of the 28. You're coming in at 5591934, so you're about $80,000. It's essentially the increase in the two officers that we need to fund.
Yep.
So that represents the default budget essentially.
Mhm.
If you're going against last year's budget, it's an add-on. So it's how you reward on project. Nonetheless, you gotta come up with 120,000 bucks to fund the recommendation either way.
Yes, Melanie, ma'am.
So Tom was asking where that number 5,779,992 came from. If you take the budget, you take out 58,516, it comes out to that.
Say that again?
So if you take, the V4 budget number,
Yep,
the proposed number of 5,829,
yep.
and subtract out the 58,516, which represents the total amount of COLA. The COLA was zero. It comes out to 5,779,000.
Okay, so that's what you gave me this morning.
Yeah,
So basically, Cole's budgeted about 600.
Yeah.
So, on page. And the step increases are essentially the same. Give or take. You're talking 2.5 versus 3%. So, I mean, if you want to work with, say, 65,000, the steps may be a little bit different. You can divide it by 3 and take half and add it to 2. So it's pretty simple. It's 19,000 per 10%.
We can throw all these figures around.
Like that.
But we've got two choices, basically. The BAC has made, they've got a ton of recommendations. There can be further cuts on top of what the recommendations I can read off like. But the recommendation in finality is $5,625,000
I'm with you.
that they will recommend, right? What we need to do is get to that point. We've got, at that point, we have two questions. If we can't reach the 5,625, then we're gonna have to live with 5,438.
Well, I don't disagree with you. So I'm trying to work here. We got to figure this out, Bob. So
Yeah.
if this is we got to go back to this sheet right here. That's the recommendation. You're $21,000 short. Because you don't have any raises, COLAs, or steps in there.
It's still, I mean, we need to cut at least $21,000 more.
No, you have, based on the recommendation of the BAC and all of these figures right here that I have listed, you're $21,000 short of that recommendation. 272, 266. And so that 21,000 is the essence of what you have to spend on step increases and raise, COLA, whatever you want to call it. Which is about $120,000, give or take. So you need to come up with call it $100,000 somewhere in order to meet that recommendation with these figures included.
You're saying that we need $100,000 in cuts in addition.
Really, probably a little more than that. 120 is the number I would use, but
I've got 84,000 written.
well, I tried to approach that. Also, Bob, I don't know what your numbers are, so maybe you want to
They
round them
weren't
down.
even complete, there was more that would be cut.
I mean, the BAC came up with this number with their cuts. So I don't know what other cuts you have.
Well, you, at the beginning, you had stated that, the BAC, I think it was you stated, correct me if I'm wrong, that the BAC came up with cuts and set it at, 5, 6, 25, and they said they could, suggested more.
Haven't seen,
They hadn't come up with all the cuts even to reach that figure.
Right.
But they knew what could be proposed to the public that may or may not pass.
Right.
I mean, it was a squabble over $20,000 one way or another. Okay.
I don't have a list of where they're proposing. This V4 represents all of the meetings jointly.
Right.
So I kind of sticking with this because there were, like I said, the cuts that came out of all those meetings was 17,000.
Okay.
We're not even in the neighborhood. So I think, I tried to do exactly what we're talking about, Bob, and I started with, how do we get down to that number? And so, do you have a list? Do you want to go down? We can listen. You want me to write them on the board? Do you want me to, you guys want to write them down, or you just want to sit there and listen?
I can go through the list. Okay.
Well,
Well, come up to approximately 84,050.
so itemize them.
All right.
Do you want me to press go get a copy of that?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Would that be easier? Thanks.
If you have more recommendations for cuts too, that would be good news.
This is, this year talking about, you've got that in front of you. No. It's a different- Plus, I think we need to go through these variables that are, fixed. So,
I pulled them right off of here. I don't think there's anything in there that's really any fluff.
I'm not saying it's any of it's,
No, I'm with you. I'm just saying, I took the very bare minimum, and there's really no much labor in there. You want to talk about where we can go, this is how I approached it several weeks ago.
thank you. Oh, good. Department succession, you had 30,000 in there.
There's an increase of about 60-something thousand in
Yeah.
fire department.
I'm sorry, my question is, it was 30 for the succession. I'm not sure how much of that we really need. There was a suggestion of 10,000, but I think it can be cut more.
He figured per quarter.
Right, I get that, yeah, but I think a month is sufficient. And maybe the following year consulting for that position. In other words, if we retain in next year's, the following year's budget for some of that. Because I don't know if any new person's gonna want someone hovering over for 3 months. But
I would ask the same question as proposed for, I took out 62,000 right out. On the fire department, I took, because he added $31,000 in wages.
Okay,
Okay, so, and I took out the thing, if Rick died in his surgery last week, we wouldn't need that $30,000, so I don't see it as a giant need.
I wouldn't phrase it like that.
I don't mean it in a negative way, but I'm being straight up and realistic here.
Well, yeah, but it's,
If Rick wasn't here today, for whatever reason, he decided to quit, we wouldn't need 30 grand.
I agree.
So why put it in $120,000?
I think that's what I'm saying. Oh,
So reduce that down to 10?
I would reduce it down to, as a minimum, let's try 10 for now. And, then if we have to take more, we take more.
So that's a $20,000 cut.
$20,000 cut.
I take it all out. I'm just telling you, this is a work session between the three of us, and I think
Yeah,
it's
I
needed
could
that
support,
we can't afford.
I could support that position.
So,
Um,
We
yes,
also-
I'm sorry, Lori, Nick?
I really, he wears 3 hats. I really think he needs to have somebody.
I agree, and we have, also, let me, digress here, but we need to look at that position in terms of, do we want, a replacement for as many hats, or do we want a different, building, separate department and separate, emergency, theoretically. So we need to relook at that position anyway. Okay.
so what, are we picking a number here or what?
I don't know, Bob, what do you feel about taking it on that, which would basically take us 30,000? I think we need to keep some because
But now take 20 out, then
right,
we'll retain 10.
Yep.
For now. As this is a work session, it can change as we go along.
Okay,
I would like to point out one other thing in this, while we're doing this, and we can stick with fire department, but, if you look at your B4 budgets, you have them with you. Go to page, 8.
Eight and nine, it's 9 is fire.
Well, I'm going to 8 because it's the total on the police department.
actually, the total is on 9 at the top of the page.
Well, you might have one single page, so.
That's it.
So if you look at the total on the police department, the change is, bear with me a second here, I lost my, it's $182,000, okay?
Right.
All right, so right off the bat,
Let me set you up for that. What was the amount for the 85 it was for the positions?
86,000.
86,000. So if you take that out, we're talking about 94. That's not related to the filling the.
So the increase is about 94,000.
Okay, correct. Thank you. Go ahead.
So now we can go back to fire department. And, I'm gonna look at the lines. And I asked this question in our meeting, you have, under wages, 5122.
Sorry, I'm on 3. I mean,
5122 is the accountant per diem.
Page are we dealing with?
yeah, please.
9.
9?
Page 9, but I don't see
Way
50.
down the bottom, 3 up. It says wages per diem. Account number 5122.
Okay, thank you.
So that's 68,640.
Correct.
All right, and then if you look up, you have call member wages now and then.
Is,
62,740.
and that's a reduction of 68,000.
Well, let me finish here.
Please, go ahead.
Don't need to run to. Calculator too, let's see. Plus 62, 740. Equals $131,000. That equals last year's call wage budget, those two lines.
Right,
But as when we are in our meeting, Rick moved one individual up to the hourly position line, 5111, which added $32,000.
correct.
That person is a call member,
True,
and so he added $32,000 to these wages.
that's correct, and that was
We
moving,
it's a misnomer to say we reduced it by 68, moved it to another line, and then added it at the top.
oh, I wasn't
So
saying
we
it
have
was
three
reduced, I was saying it was moved.
Isn't the 32,000 for all of our hourly employees?
No.
No,
I
line
asked the
two
question
is the hourly.
specifically. It's one individual.
Basically, that person was on call. In fact, I remember you had pointed out that this person is a regular employee, so why are they on call? And I think that's a
They're
response to
listed as a
this.
call member.
True, because they
But we
were
had,
regular hours.
nonetheless, we added $32,000 to the wages and kept the call numbers the same.
Well, we reduced the call by 68. We do have per diem that's increased. And so I'm not
But you
sure.
you didn't reduce call. You only just moved 68,000 to a new line.
So I did go over this with Rick, because I knew
Okay.
there would be questions on this, and
Thank you.
we accounted for what we added to the hourly was actually 4 weeks of coverage for when, his admin goes out on vacation for those 4 weeks. That's 4 weeks of coverage for hour.
Oh, well, let me clarify here. Because we have the 30,000, that's irrespective of the 30,000, because that was for the new person coming in and paying their monthly.
No, that's a separate,
Yes, it is a separate, that's what I'm saying. So this is an hourly increase that they were talking about while this transition goes on. Okay,
I don't know, he said there were no raises to the call members. We increased that substantially last year.
right.
I didn't count.
But
So, yeah, I guess one that's part of the confusion, it might be the fact that there's a 68 plus and a 68 minus, but that's not necessarily the same. So half of that decrease went to wages, and half of that decrease, I think, went to per diem. The per diem was increased by about 36,000, just to separate those out. So anyway, per diem is the thing I think that is increased. And part of what you're saying is that per diem was put in for the last 3 months for this transition.
is that correct?
No,
Okay.
He's got a list of he's got certain people that are scheduled for so many hours per week now.
Yeah.
Rather than having a full-time employee and having to pay them health insurance, all those benefits.
Right,
So instead, he's doing it by, having a list of per diem members that are signing up to come in to work so many hours. So.
when they can fill it.
When they can fill those. So he separated that out. He's got certain members that do that. So he took that amount out of his call wages.
Yeah,
So now if you add those
68,000.
two together, it equals the other call wage. But in addition, he took another employee out of the call wages because
correct.
they're doing additional duties elsewhere. And so he's put them under hourly wages. But it doesn't appear that they got taken out of the call wages. I've got his listing of call wages here. Let me just add them up real quick.
And yeah, let's clarify that before we spend more.
I think there's an error.
Good.
But
Why don't you search for that?
I
and
do
we'll-
know he met with somebody. Who did he meet with, Lori? They went over all his wages, and they did figure out that there was some stuff, he did make some changes.
It was one of the big numbers, I think it was Dan.
He went, yes, it was he. Yeah, let me just start.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we go on to something else while you're clarifying that? And, 'cause I don't want to just bat numbers around it. It appeared to me that there was an increase in pretty. Maybe we haven't really funded pretty heavily this year.
But you're gonna come in $30,000 under in call wages this year. Give or take a few. So it was overfunded last year, and now we're overfunding it again by a double. And I'm being pretty blunt about it, because it's obvious. Everybody's, the per diems, and the people that are scheduled to come in, and the people that come in the middle of the night are all getting paid out of one line now for $131,000, and we're coming under. And we're gonna end up adding way more to that budget than needs to be in there.
Well, the call members are actually 62,000 budgeted, a reduction of 68,000.
He just moved it to another one.
So,
Well, this is, the 130,000 was not people coming out on calls. That was including the regular hours for, the person who was doing the bookkeeping on all the calls. That, she had regular hours, 3 hours in the afternoon. She works Saturdays, and that was regular scheduled wage time. So,
She was being paid out of call wages.
and she was being paid on call wages,
That's correct.
and we fixed it.
But you didn't reduce it from the call wage line in the proposed budget.
Yeah.
which is what she's checking.
Yeah, I know that's what you thought.
So on his backup, he shows, that the original call wages were 74,740, and they got reduced down to 62,740. He lists the number of calls that he's had throughout the years. And that's how he calculates it out, trying to do an average of how many calls. He can't do an exact number. There's no way to know. He just knows that the calls were increasing.
Well, they haven't missed increase this year, and I think we need to look at what we have spent on calls versus the set call times that people, like, the clerical was taken out of call, and it's been moved to salary now. And has all that been moved to salary?
So not in 24 because it was all budgeted and on call.
Exactly.
So some of it for the coverage downstairs was moved, but the rest of it, no.
Do we know what that number is that was moved to that? For
Yeah,
those 4 weeks?
I've got 27,494. For those weeks. I'm sorry, Lori. With a little bit of digging, I figured that out. Instead of my journal entries in the system.
Because the increase in salary is almost 33, 32,
Yeah.
6.
It's 54, almost 54 for the hour.
So I don't know if she was still included in the call.
She was paid out.
So do we want to reduce the call wages by that amount per salary?
But I'm assuming that's the reduction that we see here. We went from 130.9 to 62.7 thousands.
But the other half of that
It's down in.
Is per diem.
is per diem.
That's what,
Okay.
yeah, I made that point, but it's, and it looks like per diem was raised over last year, and I think that's where we might find where the increases are. Casey, do you know offhand, is there an increase in per diem versus last year? And when did we, my big question would be, when did we start getting full-time per diem players during the week? If it only started halfway through the year, it might indicate where the increase is.
The per diems really started after the meeting in March.
Okay,
That's when we started doing per diems on 3.5 days a week. It's budgeted for per diems is one person, 5 days a week.
right. So this is a 60% increase, and we're seeing an increase here.
Yes, you should be seeing that there would be an increase in the overall hours of per diems, what we did in 2024.
Correct. Okay,
Considering we also started 8 months later.
yep. So these numbers theoretically, and we need to verify, are basically the new schedule for per diems. And the transference of the call member into salary have been done, and we want to verify those numbers. Casey, you have more?
My correction, chief is texting me too. Saturday has been incorporated into per diem, so it's 6 days.
Got it.
The Saturdays in 2024 were on call.
So we went from 3 days to 6 days,
Yes. And Saturday did move into per diem.
which is double.
But wasn't that number budgeted for last year, the one, out of the 130, or no?
31,000 was the total for everything, all members. Way up,
Not broken down everything
correct.
last year.
But we're gonna fight all the way out for one thing.
Right.
We finally all put that over in our minds. That just over a half hour at a time tonight.
Yep, thank you for keeping track.
We still got stuff to do. I got.
Yeah.
Got no choice. Let me go through some cuts. We cut $20,000 out of the fire department's section, all right? Recommendation from the BAC was to cut the overtime increase of $20,000 for the police department. We've got more officers now. Yet the overtime is to increase by $20,000. By having more officers, I don't see the advantage to more officers if we're gonna pay more overtime.
Correct.
Speaking as we have more, we don't give it away. Carl, you know this, Phil. Phil got a list of overtime wages that were spent by the police department. And a lot of them should never have been spent on overtime. All right? Drug take back day, we're hiring 2 officers to come in and work overtime to take back drugs when we have a drop off box in the front hallway. We'll pay them a day's overtime for 2 people. And yet we need a $20,000 increase.
And the fact those drugs are picked up at the police department, I ran into one of the people doing that.
I'm talking about the hourly wages associated with it. There's a
Right.
pickup cost involved, that's already included in here.
Yep.
The other thing that, so they, VAC wished to cut that $20,000 increase in overtime. There's 20 grand there.
Right.
Shift differential, which Rachel was mentioning, that was a source body movement. Person on the VAC personally. And that the shift differential going up from $1 to $2 an hour plus Saturdays, and it's gonna cost $10,000. I mean, we have other employees in the town that would love that shift differential also. Why would it be delegated strictly to one department, to give that shift differential?
Well, I can argue with that, Bob, because it costs us almost $100,000 to train an officer. And it's the only
We don't
department,
ship-
it's the only department,
A lot of the time,
it's the only department that runs 24 hours a day here. And if we want to try to retain officers, instead of having a revolving door, we're very lucky for the first time in as many years as I can remember, we have a full department. And if we want to retain those people, and we want people working at night, we should be paying them a decent shift differential so we can retain them. Because we lose one, it costs us 100 grand, and all you're looking for is 15. It makes no sense. retention is a key in that department. And
You can say that, and I don't see the shift differential, people not getting a shift.
we already have a shift differential, we're just adding a little bit to it. Like 50 cents or something, I don't know exactly what it is.
It gets $10,000. 10,000.
But
I
it's,
think it equated to $15,000 increase, but over to the right here, it says start later in the year or phase in level fund. With full staff, it should be adequate. That's on the BAC's notes. Maybe we could start it in summer. I think I agree with Tom, it's a good way to retain employees.
Which notes were those from?
Right on the BAC thing over to the right. I mean, we could.
I've never even seen that before. Kyle had it, but I've never seen it.
we're kind of picking on, this is all my personal comment, I mean, I think we're looking at the departments that are probably pretty important. I know we just kicked around call wages and came to really not a lot of, call wages per diem, whatever, I mean, wages. And we really came up to nothing. I just quickly added up call wages through October, according to what Rick submits, and it's $27,000. And so everybody that we're paying now per diem, Saturday, whatever it is in that $27,000 up through the end of October. So we've got 131,000 on there, including the 30 that he moved out and moved to another lot. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I did email the department heads last week and Rachel gave me some feedback as far as if they were looking to cut what she would be willing to give up. She had proposed taking the 5,775 from the weapons and ammo line and reducing the weapons and ammo by that much. And then the 3,000 from the IT budget for the traffic stop. Maybe we could still start the shift differential, because again, I think that's important to retain officers, but maybe we could start it halfway through the year and reduce that by half. And at least that would help us through the large increase to the budget.
Okay, how much is that saving?
Well, I think it was 50,000 proposed.
Yeah. That would be $7,500 savings.
So maybe we could,
What the BAC recommended was a $10,000 cut, that's $2,500 more. Well, it's just.
then to also, she's also requesting or she said she could give up the 5,700 and the 3,000, so that's a little bit.
So what is the total of those items?
And Lori, could you run some numbers on that? Sure. The shift differential, would it be like if we were to start that, hold on.
Shift differential is 15,000. Divided by 4. It's $3,700 per quarter, so mid-year times 2. 7,500, that's correct. What was the other one, Lauren?
She had 5775 from weapons and ammo.
One other one.
3,000, and that is under IT. On page 4 for the police department. That was, the amount change was a $3,800 increase there.
That's 3,000 or 3,800?
So she said we could take 3,000
Okay.
from that line for IT budget.
I'm sorry, what page?
It's under IT, page 4, and then
Oh, got it.
annual support and maintenance PD. So take 3,000 from that line.
Oh, you got 3 items. Were there other ones?
That's what she.
So where do we stand? How much have we saved?
36.2.
So the PD, it's cut 16.2?
16, yeah, I think 75. Call it 16.
Remaining at $30,000. How about the overtime from the PD? We're gonna increase overtime $20,000 in 1 year.
I would think not.
New officers, full staff.
I know when I spoke to Rachel, she would be able to give up 10, but I think it was separate from these other items, so maybe she's compensating for that overtime. I know Phil looked at that overtime sheet, her numbers aren't that one. She may give up 10. I think she needs it. She has the other officers to cover, and there's an increase in training requirements, so I think we're shortchanging ourselves. And again, it comes down to retention. I talked to her, she said she could give up 10 out of the overtime and leave everything else the same, but now she's giving up 16, and we should leave the overtime the same. So really haven't given anything up out of the fire department, guys, we're chopping on the department that we rely on here. We gave 20,000 up in new line. And we only spent 30 grand on call wages in the entire year.
We'll revisit fire. I'd like to do one at a time. Yeah. Us.
After the big ones already. They were looking for a cut in the staff development on the town office by $2,000 to keep it level funded. So it was not used, cut 350 on the mileage. They were looking at the executive secretary. Is that a part-time position now?
It's being filled by a part-time position, but I kept it open, not knowing what the employees.
Part-time position.
We need a budget for a full-time position for Bob.
We have a part-time person working.
Full-time now, they changed
I'm
to
sorry,
part-time.
let's not, are you,
I tell you what, we're going nowhere. I mean, he's gonna argue every cut that's been recommended by the VAC.
20,000 from the town office hourly.
And with the recommendation. See if Tom will go with that, see what's full-time. Do you want a $20,000 cut in town office executive secretary account?
at this time, we're looking at part-time, and I don't know where we're gonna be going with that in the future.
Well,
We
with
have,
funding, full-time and benefit,
correct,
and you have a part-time employee.
Like, it was just filled, it was supposed to be just temporary, but it's been working out for right now, that's why I kept it in there. But not knowing what's going to happen, I kept it in as the 3% off of what was budgeted last year.
to save this budget, I would say, yes, we need to do that at this point.
We've really got to overall come up with $204,000 in cuts to get to the point that the VAC.
And this is 10% of it. Yep.
Recommended budget. I believe. I can't speak for the other 6 members on the board, but they seem kind of adamant. Casey even had a figure lower than me, so.
Hey, Carl, I'm sorry, I missed it. Did you guys agree to do the overtime for the PD?
We had talked, we had said we were going to, we're gonna have, 20,000 on overtime.
So keep it at 20?
No, reduce it.
Reduce.
Do you want to reduce by 20?
Once you have a.
That's the increase proposed.
Exactly.
Since she
It still
offered
leaves the money in for that she used last.
So what are you, that's why I wrote it down, but
I'm okay with dropping it 10.
how about you, Bob?
I don't see the need for more overtime or more.
Yeah, but
We're still funding the overtime. I know she went over this year. but she didn't have the officers. The reason for need
I understand.
is the lack of officers. That makes a more need for overtime. Now we have more officers and more overtime.
Well, let me make one comment. Basically, if we're talking about taking out steps, and we're talking about, taking out COLA, that has greater impact on, retention than any other minor thing. And, which would be a sort of a smack in the jaw for people who have expectations.
I don't think that's what we're trying to do, Carl.
Please don't argue with me, I'm just making a statement. And then I think we need to try to retain, in terms of retention. So I think if she can try to work with restricting overtime, it's a better outcome than her having to, force these, reductions where people have expectations, in terms of retention, the overall view. So that's where I'm coming from, that's all. Okay.
We're not trying to eliminate the other things, we're trying to fund them realistically with what the town really needs to have.
Agreed.
And if we keep pinching it and being stingy, like we have for years, we were gonna be in the same position again. And that's why we had a $400,000 increase to try to have retention last year. And we're headed down that way again if we pinch it. And I understand the BAC's recommendation, and I'm okay with it. But we're gonna have to make the decisions of fund it. And out of that $272,000, we've already spent $250 without any changes. And so we need to come up with $120,000 in real savings and say, I'm sorry, but that's the way we're gonna do it this year, and next year we can add it. So we really haven't attacked the animal here. And I'm being pretty blunt about it because I have to do this before. And I know you guys have too, but, we just cut 16,000 out of an operating department that's running pretty much bare bones now, and we didn't cut anything out of the other department other than a new line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can move on. We got 16 out of PBO. What are we gonna do with overtime?
All right, here's my suggestion.
I think we take 10, she'll live with it. She told me she would. That gives her an extra 10 because she's got to cover more vacations and more required training, period.
So this is my recommendation. If we're in October, we're at 57, and we add another 11,000, we'd be at 68, which is about a little short of 70,000. So if we took off 10,000, that would be on what she's tracked to spend this year, and we're not increasing it for next year. So in terms of what she's expended, we are increasing of what she budgeted last year by 10,000.
So we'll put 10.
That's also
we'll take
what
10 out
she's-
of overtime.
Correct. Thank you.
So that's 10 more.
Okay, where else are we going?
Sorry, which line were we talking about?
That's gonna go on overtime.
We were talking overtime, please.
Reduce it by 10.
Just 10.
The rec department's hourly wages. He seems to make a recommendation to use money out of the revolving account to pay up to $12,000 of wages that are used by the rec department for programs that parents pay fees for into the revolving account. Don't want to kill the revolving account. There seems to be some other issues with the rec department. I sat down with Dan on this. He thought it could be cut, and the next thing I'm hearing, they want to give money to Concom. That's an issue they think they gotta deal with separately.
I think that's off the table. But what about it?
It's $5,000 right there to think.
Well, if that's what you want to do, Bob, that's fine. I think the rec department isn't the problem budgets. I mean, we might be able to squeeze some out of the revolving fund, but again,
Well, pick a department you want to get I'm gonna cut,
Listen to it, if it's
pick
right,
a department you wanna cut by $204,000, then I'll go with you, and then
we can't.
we're all done.
You gotta make.
And you've
your
got to do
decisions.
$10, 10,000, 10,000, 16,000, 20,000, 12,000. You gotta do it at that rate.
So, just in terms of, let's not argue with each other, we're brainstorming, you have an idea, it shouldn't be interrupted. Same
I
for you,
apologize for interrupting. I
thank you,
agree with you, Carl.
okay. Yep,
So the rec department, revolving fund, should be able to move some money around for the hourly wages that we pay for people.
We do,
And pull that from the revolving account
we do,
annually.
we do.
We do, I know we do.
Okay. You
I
want
want
to?
to increase it by
Okay.
$12,000.
Okay.
and, one other thing on the
Does that
revolving.
sound okay?
I totally agree, Matt, and I have concern about this revolving account because it hides some of these wages that are there. And we really don't know what's being spent unless we get a report on that. In terms of total expenditures, because these reports are not showing full wages that are being increased or anything else if it goes into the revolving fund.
So I can tell you how it works currently. The other person that he has working over there full-time,
Yep.
all of her work goes direct revolve.
Right.
Um,
So my question to you is, if we're talking about paying or spending more in revolving, how much did it increase last year for the revolving account so that we're not decreasing it necessarily? Or are we just cutting in its increase? In other words, how much did it increase last year that, from beginning of the year to, now?
okay,
And I believe he did increase the fees.
Yeah.
Just this year,
I think it was this year.
so he did increase his program fees.
You find out that there was, as it stood, there was about $80,000 still sitting in the account.
Correct. And if it's growing, then clearly could be a source of budget reduction.
You know, these employees are hired and they're working on programs. that the Parents have paid fees for, then it should come out of those fees that the parents have paid.
True.
All of those.
So this is,
So Roberta?
yeah, Roberta, this was not discussed at the DAC, but I just checked with Al and cutting out, we had hoped to hire somebody extra. So I just talked to Al and I think she'll have to get the exact number, but about 12,000.
Okay, now we'll get that one planned. Thank you. While you're looking at that, can I call a 1 minute break?
Yeah, that's fine.
50 seconds left.
Oh, Rick sent you a text message.
Oh, good, the phone's in there.
I'll just ask him what else to say.
Tell them to send it to you, Lori.
I asked him to forward that text to me.
Oh, like that chair's more comfortable. I know, it's just moving.
Been going all morning, I just want to sit down.
Do you have an inversion table?
Oh, yeah,
You do?
yeah. I can't use it.
Oh, my brother does it just slightly. He isn't, I go upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. We have to get back to that.
Okay. Is Rick watching?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Should I shut it off?
No, not at all. I want to have
Some
a
people
good.
didn't want. It's been beneficial.
So through November, since the end of last year, his cash has, months. Has increased $17,837.
So 12 is no problem.
Should cover it.
Okay,
Okay, so the general fund no longer covers for that employee, all of the wages for what's that person's name?
Program director.
Program director, thank you.
I thought all of it was covered.
Program,
I thought program coordinator, all of it was on the revolving fund.
all except for 12,000.
Okay. Yeah,
12,100.
that's fine. She's got that.
So take that out, it's all gonna be
Take
done by
I suggested leaving a line item in with $100 in it
You know, I think that's a good idea.
for wages, a wage line, not to zero it out.
How about $1? We usually put just $1, just.
Well, I think 100, it's 12,100, so
Put
it's-
it on.
So we'll cut it's not a cut, we're just transferring what
Transferring.
is being taken from.
Exactly.
It's listed under a cut, so another 12,000 cut.
Yep.
Do we have to budget for that? Right. No,
We, well, he budgets it forward.
but it's coming out of another fund, and we have to put it in our budget, it's not like a
No,
budget,
No.
like a number.
He's taking,
So we're just gonna
he's
reduce.
taking
it.
revolving money for all but $12,000 of that
We're
employee.
gonna say, well,
We'll take 12 out of the budget.
Yeah.
And it'll be.
It'll cover it.
Cover my
With
revolving.
revolving. Anyway, Laurie, here's a little one for you, you can handle with $300 on Halloween, Dan put in for Halloween.
Yeah, I looked at the minutes on that, and it said that I was gonna meet with Dan, to ask him if there's anything he could cut, including that Halloween, he said no. He said that, there are expenses, he does get donations, but that's for the decorations and the prizes. He buys the candy, from that $300. So the donations and the expenses for those other items are in rec revolving. But the 300 that he buys candy to put in his truck, just like everybody else at Halloween does. He says that comes from,
The fire department spent $80. Police department got it free from Walmart. I'm not sure why he needs 300 in candy. You know, the firefighters association,
okay,
they spend about $80 a year and they give out candy to every kid.
all right.
Tiny amount, it's just something to
Yeah.
mention, should we take this out? No.
I would take 200 of it out. I don't see where he needs that much. So, for a nickel and dime this. And we need to.
that's Halloween, right? Correct?
Yeah.
So we're cutting it too much. Mentioned before, town office staff development, $2,000 public funded, because it was not being used, not fully used. Then,
Sorry, what department again?
town office,
Yep.
staff development.
Yep.
How much? The recommendation was just the level fund. So
Right.
2,000.
Okay.
Hey, Tom?
For the training, right?
Development, staff development, yeah.
Right.
The mileage, for the staff development, level fund that it was not fully. You can cut it more than the $2,000 recommendation. That's a figure in hand. So it's up there, a $350 cut mileage. Guess that was probably an
Yeah.
increase it was asked for.
That's all right.
It was an increase, I think, to the code enforcement. Or that was under town office.
Yeah, it's on the general office.
Yeah.
So, and I got a direct question to our code enforcement officer.
How much did you have to about?
Do you ever have access to the pickup truck over at rec department, or is it worthwhile? I mean, it'd be an inconvenience, you'd have to go pick it up, maintenance and everything else.
I mean, I have to travel out anyways to go to wherever I'm going to that day to check on things.
Yep.
But I would still be using my truck from here to there and back.
True.
So, and I think, first quarter mileage for mine was $140, if I'm right. So you're talking $300, $600 a year for mileage. I don't think that's,
No, I don't either. Okay.
it usually runs between 10 and 20, 23 miles a day when I'm here. So and I'm not here all day, I'm only here on Monday, so,
Right.
an occasional holiday, an occasional, weekday when I can get here. So it's not gonna increase by that much, and I don't think that it's worth the hourly pay to go there, trade trucks, take it out, come back,
That was my question.
come back to here.
Yep, okay.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, if the truck was here, it would be one thing. The truck's on the other side of town, that's a no. And then you get paid in mileage, and I get to use the truck.
So we did, what are we doing with the mileage?
Problem is the mileage is asked to be increased by $500. And the cut it,
And he's saying he needs to do 300, and some of this is, training. Yeah,
And we don't have positions filled right now.
right. Okay,
So we're leaving that same or we?
the research, they only use so far, it only goes through the beginning of November. 405, we used that at 500.
yeah, last year we spent 400 so far, and that would be for,
So there's no change
80.
there?
It'd be $500 if, right now, 405 is a little less than $500 for the year. So, 500 increase, I don't know if it's justified, but, doubling it, but, what about we increase it by 200? And take out 300 out of the increase?
Well, that really makes no sense to me, because you got 405 for this year, we didn't have anybody in that position for half a year.
Okay.
So it's automatically gonna double.
Okay.
I mean,
How much did you say your, what it would cost for just your position?
It's like, I think my first check was $140 for a quarter. And I think this one here is running up to be about the same.
So
So
600
I'm
a
gonna
year.
be about $600 a year.
Yep, okay.
we don't have any, we haven't had any enforcement for such a long time that I think it's gonna be continue to increase. I think we should leave the law.
What other mileage have we got? And needs,
That would be, training, mileage going up to Concord or something for trucks.
That's for code enforcement and
And there's help in that, there's the help officer side of that as well.
town office, there's.
All right,
Oh, no, that's it. Yeah.
okay. We won't touch it, please.
All right, so we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, okay, $200, I'm not gonna spend another 10 minutes. So,
So on the same note as Bob said, we haven't used it this year where we cut out,
I'm sorry, let's just go back
I'm
to
sorry.
that. When are we gonna cut out of mileage? Anything?
no, we thought, said no. Carl?
I'll go along with no on this for now. We may come back to it.
So building on what you just said, Bob, that we underutilized it for training, staff development, I think we ought to go to, following on your thing, I think we ought to go to, find it here. Find when you want them, right?
What are you doing?
We may help you. What are you looking for?
Looking at cemeteries and park and recreation.
Oh, okay.
We got, my cemeteries is on 7, but yours may be on 8. I think we ought to pull the whole labor budget right out of it. The work's being done now with our existing budget. Leave the operating side of it the same. We didn't use it, we didn't budget for it last year, we just added it. Parks is the same way. Parks is further back. You find it, let me know.
Page 15.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So in parks, we had 5,000 budgeted, we didn't spend a penny. And we're still asking for 2852.
Well, that's the number I was looking for. What we had budgeted in 23, I assume that was around 5,000. So, and this year, I understand he didn't have a guy, and he had his guys, basically his regular crew, doing cemeteries.
I heard the story at the meeting, so I understand that, but nonetheless, we're adding 8,400 to one line, and we're retaining 2852 out of the other line, and we didn't spend anything on it, so we're going to $10,000 budget on those 2 items, and we haven't spent a penny in a year. And it's already in our existing wages and benefit package, and I think we're just adding it. I understand that we may not have an individual do it, but the work's been getting done very easily with our existing staff. It's a $10,000 knock.
Yep.
And we haven't spent.
Yep.
It's strictly an ad at this point. I think we should leave some in the materials and operating side. I think the labor is all being absorbed somewhere else. And I think it should stay that way.
Yes, we may.
They have CDL licenses, they could be doing other things that require more knowledge than running a lawnmower. It's like me standing at a coffee machine, there's other things I could be doing a lot that somebody else can't be doing.
And a question to Mike, what's the hourly rate you pay for someone who mowed lawns when you were able to hire someone?
$20 an hour.
$20 an hour.
It's working until last year became an issue that John was supposed to mow for, we did not mow, so I had to use leaf the majority of the time. So a lot of the projects that he was scheduled to do kind of got delayed or put off because we were doing almost 12 acres of property to mow, and we just got tipped apart. So obviously, I'm gonna totally different on steering, right up until middle of the year, we spent it out of the budget every year, we hire a seasonal operator, taking someone away from the highway to do that, it's not of the road construction and all that other stuff's not.
Right.
And you'll see the shift in that as far as the cemeteries, we're going to use last year, it should have been funded, and for some reason it did not, for whatever reason. But the idea was to utilize the money from the perpetual care to pay for that. That's why I reduced out of the parks and playground. Still have the same amount of mowing to do, if not more. Now we've expanded the cemetery, another 2 acres to mow. So you're probably talking close to 12, well, like 12 acres to mow now. And that's just one part-timer, through the summer hours. So,
Right. So, you have the seven, yeah, go ahead.
So where are we standing with using the monies out of the perpetual care fund?
That's my question. Okay.
Absolutely, we just, trustees of the trust fund, have they given you any money to cover the cost?
they have not, no.
All right, so
That's why it was not put in the cemetery last year.
so that's not going anywhere unless we get it to go to court and request the monies to be used out of the fund. So it's a simple thing. We can do that within the next 3 months. We probably won't be mowing the lawn anytime soon. So we've got about 3 months to do it. Make a simple request to the courts to use the funds out of the vegetable care
Agreed.
funds. As we do perpetually care for all of the graves in the cemeteries.
Yes, Lori May.
So it was discussed at the Board of Selectmen's meeting a few months back, that we can take that money out, but it was suggested that if we didn't need to take that money out of the budget, let's leave it there and let it earn interest. We can take the money out of, we created a new warrant article a few years ago to separate it out. So it's maintenance, the maintenance of the cemeteries. We can take that money out of there. The other one,
Oh, I'm sorry, and the question I asked you at the time was how quickly could we do that if we decided to? And you said we could do it very simply.
yeah, I just send an email with the copies of the expenses to the trustees of the trust fund. They'll send us a check.
So,
I understand the argument, and it makes total sense to me that we're gonna get paid to do this stuff. But we could simply, like I said, the work is being done now within our existing budget. And, as far as, moving money from one account to another to cover it, I think we can still bill the trustees with our hourly rate for the money that we spend maintaining cemeteries. We don't have to budget it. We could still bill them for it. And, yes, we may not get some road work done, but, we spent almost 2 weeks at the fire department building a shed with, multiple pieces of equipment and materials and everything else. It also was not budgeted, came out of existing labor efforts. And I think it's, we took it out last year, and I think it's very easily to be taken out this year. It's a $10,000 nut that we can still bill for and recoup $23 or $5 or $6 an hour, whatever the number is. And you don't have to have it in our budget.
Where is the $10,000 specifically?
You have $8,400 in labor in the cemeteries, and you have $2,800 in parks and recreation. We haven't spent a penny on either one of them.
I've got 75 in cemeteries. I'm not sure what the number is.
Well, I'm looking at B4 here.
All right.
Wages are 8,409.
84. I'm sorry. What sheet are you looking at?
Page 7,
Page 7. Gosh.
cemeteries.
Oh, 8. All right. Yeah, I have hourly wages 7,500. 84 was spent this last year. I'm working on different sheets.
You were working on the wrong sheet.
I'm working on 12 to 24.
Well,
So
On the
my
bottom
proposed
right.
number is 8,409. We spent
8409, got it. Okay, I'm sorry.
52 $522, and probably most of that is overtime because we had a weekend burial or something. So, I mean, it'll be, $400 in there in case we have a weekend burial. Is that pretty much, if you want to make it 5, we can round it off. But we gotta, we gotta be dealing into these real numbers, not just, $300 in mileage.
Well, I don't want to preclude, getting money from the trust fund to fund this. If we reduce the funding here, I don't want to handicap them having to use his, expensive labor versus getting the cheap. So, I'm not disagreeing with you, Tom. I'm just saying that, I think we can reduce it, but money from the trust fund is needed. It'll get us a few thousand. So what are you recommending to cut, 7,000?
Take the 8,000 out of cemetery and, take the full amount on parks. On the labor side.
Yep.
It's $10,000. Almost 11, actually.
Yeah. What do you think, Bob?
We've already taken, it's almost cut in half, the request of proposed tax and delay runs.
They could come move to cemetery about that happened in the meeting, we had a discussion about.
So say it again, please. I didn't understand.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It got moved from parks to cemetery.
The 2350.
Oh, okay.
So let's remove it.
Question is how much?
$10,852. 8,000 from cemeteries and 2,852 from parks. On the labor side.
We had talked about how the cemetery could be self-funding from that account.
Well, it can be just the labor, you shouldn't be using highway workers to mow lawns. I totally disagree with Tom 100%. It's not wise with taxpayers' money.
I mean,
I agree. And
If you want $10,000, I'll find it somewhere else rather than take it from there, because we need that. That's absolutely ridiculous to take a highway worker and mow lawns.
Thank you.
I will agree with Mike on that,
Mhm.
since he's commenting, in our meeting session, but we also use highway department for an awful lot of other things. You get a very expensive rate setting up chairs for an election.
Yep.
Why don't we hire someone off the street to do that?
Or,
Or build something in the fire department? It's all the same.
Yep.
I think we can easily absorb that. And although it's a tough decision, that's what we need to do. We're still significantly short of the $120,000-$130,000 we need to benefit our employees.
so, do you have a number, Bob? If we could reduce this?
I wouldn't reduce it by any more than 50%.
Okay.
It would be more like 5,000.
All right,
I would really like to ensure that we can get this money out of the trustees and the trust fund so that we recoup that amount of money. The parks and playgrounds wages,
We haven't spent anything in either of these accounts,
well, tiny anyway, I know.
this year.
this year. And we can still bill the trustees for the money to recoup it, just go on to the revenue side to cover and absorb labor that's being used.
Well, we can only do that with the cemetery funds.
Okay,
So I'm saying we can bill them anyway. It'll just come back in another revenue from departments.
We bill them hourly wages, and we bill them hourly wages plus retirements, plus taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
right. So,
Rather cut from cemetery and leave some of the parks and playgrounds and get the money recouped from the.
So you want your
But we haven't spent anything in playground.
I'm sorry, let's not argue. Are you proposing, how much are you proposing to reduce it?
The cemetery?
Yep.
If it can be, if that wages and benefits line can be covered by the trust fund, and let the trust fund cover it.
Okay,
There's hundreds of thousands of dollars there.
so, how about proposing 8409? Or 8408? Leave $1 in there.
Well, I think you gotta leave something in there, because Mike might have a weekend burial, and he's already spent $500 this year. And so I think you need to leave something in there.
I think that would fall under cemeteries and trusts. Yes,
So, because of gross budgeting, we have to have the expense in there, we have to show the expense going out, and then the revenue coming in. Each month when I give you the expenditure ledger at the bottom, I put in, like, when we have revenue, offsetting revenue, I could do the same thing for this line. So it would show the full cost of the budget, less what the trustees have paid, to show how much it's affecting the budget.
are you suggesting we need this in the budget before we're taking money up?
Yes,
You can't bill them.
that's revenue.
I know, but you can't bill the trustees for our effort in cemeteries if it's not budgeted.
Right, yeah, you have to have
So-
offsetting revenue, the expense has to be there for the
So,
trustees.
so billing the trustees sounds like it's a pretty unknown gray area to me.
It's just,
And I understand we can do it, but it's not been done yet.
We've done it for something else this year. What did we do it for?
so anytime you have like meeting house expenses, any of those kind of things, the trustees will take the money out of the capital reserve fund and reimburse us for that. So you'll see that.
Does that happen with cemeteries this year?
No, there wasn't any expenses.
There were 500,
Well, the other
there was
thing is,
$3,700 worth of expenses. Have
the
we billed
board
it?
also said if we don't need the money by year end, then we're not gonna ask for it. If the budget is over by year end, then we'll ask for it.
Well, we need a budget in there is what you're saying. Which means we really can't.
So if it's over, we can still build it.
Yep.
So
But then,
let's budget $1.
But
then we can request $1.
that's what.
So if you go over, you can't request more than you go over.
So as a compromise, is this possible that if he takes it out somewhere else out of his budget, but we can reimburse, well, we only reimbursing the general revenue if we're doing this, is that correct?
It goes into.
Well, no, actually, no, if we keep the cemetery line in and we reimburse the cemetery, it goes back into the cemetery fund, or does it go in the general revenue?
General revenue. The expense comes out of general.
Right.
We really have to have the budget in there in order to get reimbursed.
So if we take that $8,400 out of the budget, then we lose $8,400 in recompense from the trustees.
Yeah, I don't think we can ask for that money if we haven't budgeted for it.
So we won't be able to budget, bill them for the 3739 we spent this year, even though it wasn't in the budget. Well, April wasn't in the budget.
I can ask NHMA what their opinion is, but gross budgeting says you have to put the expenses in the expenses and the revenues in the revenues. And
Well, I understand what you're saying, but last year we had no money budgeted
right,
for wages. And we had $1,500 budgeted for operating, and we spent $3,700. And I guess since we didn't have that budgeted, we can only bill for 1,500 and 100, so we can only bill for 1,600 is what I'm hearing.
I believe that's correct.
So.
So check with them in Chennai to see on the fund.
We're getting nowhere with it.
No,
We're getting nowhere here, exactly. I think we ought to take it out. We didn't spend it this year, let's take it out. So we can sort out the cemetery trust. We gotta make these hard decisions, guys. We can make it work with what we have. We got a budget that's out of control. We can't, end up with a default, that doesn't buy us anything.
let's not go into lectures,
Well,
please.
I'm not going to lectures, I'm just saying it's a realistic thing.
For some things that I know that we can cut, when we go to them first. I'm already 20 minutes late. Planning, it's been mentioned that we can save some money in planning, and that's one of the notes.
Page, please. And we'll go.
I'm not even sure.
Okay. We'll find it. What's in the early part?
I believe we'll-
Planning is on page
Roberta,
5.
it's gonna
Thank you.
speak to that.
Roberta?
Yeah, we saved budget with Susan.
So how much would the cut be?
It's around 12, it was to hire somebody for other time. She's only here 2.5 days a week.
So we're looking at 12,
Around,
Why don't we make it $11,000 cut? Fair enough? Swear it's a
I think Lori May can probably, the other thing, since we're on planning, I was hoping Lori May would move, $100 to the, contracted line and take it out of staff development, just so that,
you have it.
just move it,
Yep.
just in case.
What's the approximate cost we can cut here? Laurie, for the anticipation of the new employee?
So we're planning, cutting that second position for the planning secretary, is that what we're talking about?
Yes. I think it's around 12.
11,252.
So
I said,
Bob said 11, let's
Yeah.
do 11.
Yeah, I didn't know what,
Trying to get
social security.
money talk.
Okay, thank you.
Frankly, I mean, this is me, but we've had such a lack in that office for such a period of time that I really think it's important that we get some stability in some of these positions. And to take it away,
I've been trying to hire somebody in that position for years and years, and nobody's applied.
well,
It hasn't not been.
I don't disagree.
We have stability now with a full-time planning board.
I think Al, moves a lot of things very far forward and, so I don't disagree, but I think his insight into needing to bolster what goes on in that department is pretty good insight. So if we want to take 11,000, take it, but we're going to end up again.
My understanding, he concurs with this suggestion. Is that correct? Al?
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you, okay.
So if he thinks he can work without it.
Yep.
We'll move that
So
forward
let's
and
move
we'll
on.
bring it up again another time.
Thank you.
I had a note from one of the board members. Since Mike is here, I can ask him directly. Tina Sprague said that she believed, you said that you could cut streetlight budget down to 5K from 6.
I said I'd look in, we can try it, sure. I mean, I think it's gonna be
This is
fine. I was thinking more like 500, but that's,
Written comments made, so we can cut a grand there, streetlights. Is that okay with everybody?
I'm good with that.
Did we cut, staff development for, executive office by 500 or not?
We did, I thought.
We did.
Yeah, we did. I got it down anyway.
All right, there's two more items, that the budget advisors specifically mentioned, in that they felt both code enforcement and assessing should be flat to even 15,000 per. So it would be a total of 30,000. I believe it was 4 years ago, we paid 20 for those two positions. They thought it should be cut to a flat $15,000 each. So that might still be a raise over last year. It's less than the request.
I'm gonna go, I mean,
We'll be over.
I think we've been lacking in that area for so many years that we need to have proactive code enforcement and range. It benefits the town as a whole, and it benefits all the taxpayers who come in here because there's just so much going on. We need to be paying attention. Flat out.
All right.
I think now that we have someone in there, we've actually seen how much is going on, and it's been never land up until now. And I think we're making a huge mistake for the town to be chopping something that's so critical.
Right, at the current rate, burn rate,
We are talking about changing up the fire chief, building inspector, all of that too. We may want to consider combining building and code enforcement together as one job. It's just something to consider for the future.
good point.
Right, where was,
Hold on a minute. Yeah, sorry.
The assessing clerk position,
So the assessing clerk,
I'm not finding it in the budget.
it's under assessment.
this is the early part.
I mean, if we cut
It's
it,
fine, Bob.
we're just gonna be over budget because we just agreed to, I believe, $21 to pay that position.
So what's, is this, this can be reduced by what this was at a higher rate that you had budgeted for?
Can you confirm that? I believe it was to start at $21 an hour, and then after a 3-month review, if they were performing well, it would go to $23 an hour.
And what's it budgeted for now, 25?
No,
What,
2181.
21.
okay, so it may go up.
It would have went up had we kept the
According
other.
to the budget, it's going up 30%.
Right.
EAC believed it should have been flat at 15.
So the wage, so the change there is $5,000, according to this report on B4.
So and that would be
So
the
it's-
COLA and the step increase,
Yeah.
that's an hourly employee.
So you can take out a small
And we increased the hours on that, right?
We increase the hours to 16, knowing that, it's a new employee that will need training, and we have the reval coming up this year.
I will reiterate my feeling that this is a key position because as we've all sat here and listened to the Conservation Commission say, when are we gonna build to the current use stuff that we haven't built, it was in the tens of thousands of dollars. This is a revenue section of it, the operating part of the stuff. We need to be paying attention to someone who's on the ball. And if we we get cheap, we're not gonna get our revenues like we should be.
Okay, so I got a couple of questions here. One is contracted services, that would be the Avatar. And it's through 17, what are we projected to spend
It's
at a firm rate on that?
right on target, although we did agree, we're contracted with them, but now that the old assessing clerk has left and resigned, we have Monique is filling in, like transferring all the deeds and stuff, so we probably may come a little bit over, but it should be right on.
Okay, and so the increase for is the 4490, that total amount needed, it's a 30% increase. What can we reasonably expect?
Where are you?
I'm up at the wages for assessing clerk.
So the average proposed at 19,277.
Right, and that's at a rate of what we projected, and the
Yes.
hours of the week.
Right, and that was the 2109 or something to start, and then after the 3 months, it would bump to 23.
Okay. And we have hired someone. Right, okay.
No concept. I do have to leave you at this point in time.
Okay, thank you for your
I
work
did,
on this.
I did propose 84,000 in cuts, came away with
I've got 60,
60.
so still 65,000 or more.
Still, no, sure, no, because we still haven't cut the raises previously known as COLA.
Well, that doesn't include them, because we had 21,000 left over from the VACs. Really, not, well, actually,
The difference-
we had more because we took planning out, so we added, we're 34,000.
If you take the requested proposed budget, okay, subtract the VAC's proposed final figure, you're gonna come up with $204,000. That's all I can say. I could go to work.
Are you gonna end this thing?
You guys,
What are you gonna do?
can't continue.
I'm going to end this thing for today. Do we have a meeting on Wednesday?
We are not scheduled to have one.
We've talked about it.
I believe we were, the VAC believes it's occurring, but
We had talked about it last week in terms of scheduling the 11th.
Which
So,
is
because we got delayed by a week, we didn't have to, the VAC couldn't give a recommendation, give it next Wednesday.
I meant to ask you this morning.
You know what?
It was
It was
not.
a perfect thing, Joe. I just went down and paid my taxes, here's my receipt.
Okay,
I did that a week ago, I was right.
okay,
As I walked in, and
So-
here were the tissues that she had.
right.
Here's the one I brought.
Roberta, do we have any parting words? So,
Yeah, just a reminder that if you want to change the fire chief's position, you need a warrant article.
Okay,
So if we have,
good point.
I just want to make, before we close up here, a default is not going to buy us anything, and we need to have some real solid consensus on this budget or what we're going to.
Agreed. I agree.
Given what we have for CIP stuff, there's a bunch of stuff coming down the pipe.
Overall, the proposed budget was almost 10% higher than last year, about 10%. Okay? Tina Sprague actually made a recommendation, why don't we just go back to the department heads and say, in addition to what we've already done, we still need 5% cut per department. 5%.
I don't disagree, Bob.
Right? And if we don't get that, then they're gonna live with the default budget,
So
okay?
can we do that Thursday? We go to the department heads on your department head meeting and go back to them. This is what we come in there with our butcher knife and see if they can work a scalpel, do some proper reductions. Okay,
Could we do that ahead of time? Are we still going to meet Wednesday?
I'll do that ahead of time.
I'm thinking,
Just heard we weren't meeting Wednesday.
But we could.
We could, oh, I'm sorry,
But we could, right?
we could
Have to
make
be
Wednesday,
posted
we posted it.
today, right?
Do need to go.
Okay, I would think we would need a meeting, Wednesday, we had talked about it last week as a possibility, and, I would like to move forward with that. And we can do the normal time. So if you can
What are
post
we
that,
doing?
sorry,
What are we doing?
we're gonna have a meeting Wednesday night at 6,
I've got a
Be
chamber
there,
open house.
be
at the
square.
library, so-
sorry,
We've got chamber open house at the library Wednesday night, so.
we'll be kind to you then, okay? Although I do want to ask you about your increases. Anyway, just, and, so, okay,
So we're scheduled for a meeting for the 11th.
the 11th at 6.
And we're gonna make these changes that we just.
We're gonna put those changes into a new document.
Are we taking out the COLA and the steps?
We have, we have made no decision on that, other than where we started from, because we need to see where we are.
Well,
Do you
it
have those
says
changes written
on
out?
here.
I was just gonna ask if you guys.
Review them.
Hours.
Yes.
This is what I've got. I'm not perfect, but-
That's
So
right.
we
Keep
need to
track
know
of
what the
the-
COLA and the steps figures are.
We
So
just gave that.
I know, I've got it down.
I've got 20K.
So
You want to write, this is what I've got.
I'm gonna do it on here and then go through.
Okay.
These changes.
Yeah.
Yep, so.
This is what I've
Must be
got.
on TV, isn't it?
No, FD, yep.
Our wages, okay, and that was the 1 hourly.
So we took 20,000 out of the transition line.
Oh, that's just amazing.
What,
No,
did
it's
we do
gonna-
anything to the hourly?
No. Everybody felt it was acceptable with what, all right, so the next, you got that one?
I just want to verify, that's right, I don't know, get it.
Did you get White's
Okay,
email on the
so
electric?
20 out of the transition
Yeah,
line.
on the
Yeah,
agenda
and
Wednesday.
then it's gonna affect all the rest of the social security.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I have in the PD department,
Is it starting today?
which is just before, I have 7,500 in a shift differential, which I think is a huge mistake. And then I have 5775 in ammo.
Mine is 5775.
Correct.
Okay.
And the next line was 3,000 out of the IT, but I'm not sure where she has that. in.
What's Rachel's one?
Oh.
Email from Ronnie.
Mine is 3,000, yeah.
And, I have a 10,000 on here, and I didn't mark it, but I don't know what I'm doing with my math somewhere else, let me add it. So let me jump down, we had 12,000 out of rec.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was the program coordinator.
And all the associated benefits from that.
Yeah.
Oh, decent.
We reduced,
And then litigation. And then we had 200 from Halloween. With citizens candy, buy candy. And then we have, are you with me? And then I have 2,000
What?
in staff training from the town.
One would think, in fact, I made, he made $500 on Halloween from admissions. I was spending.
Okay, turn off as well.
Think it all should be resolved.
Reduce it by what?
did we do,
2,000.
I will look at the,
Or whatever it was, yeah, this was a reduction of 2,000.
we didn't cut 20.
From what?
So staff development, so it's going down to 500. So you only already spent 1,390.
Nope.
That's, you
Okay.
want me to say.
Okay.
We're marking in the wrong direction according to Tom.
Okay.
And then we took 11,000 for planning. And new staff.
No, we
Yeah.
didn't.
How much?
11,000,
Okay.
that was that new position.
Yeah.
Okay with me?
Mm,
Are you guys still in session or did you, I thought you quit?
Oh, we quit.
Okay, so I have something else.
11,252.
Huh?
11,252.
Okay, whatever.
Oh, I'm sorry, we are still in
I just
session
wrote it.
technically, but I would say we are, I'm turning the,
Not yet. You're both in here.
What?
We're not turning until you're done.
Minus
They're talking. I can talk to Roberta.
Well, this is a question,
I think that's all I have.
So in that email from Monique.
I had 10,000 in here, but I'm not sure that
Our elderly
that
exemptions,
didn't get.
what was she talking about?
She was recommending.
Hold on, executive secretary, that was executive secretary.
Dan.
No, we didn't,
What to
we didn't
increase
decide on that.
Or the high
Just the 10,000 we were talking about.
Was she recommending going up or down?
We didn't do anything
I
with
think going up due to.
To follow.
the-
Right,
What
yeah,
the
I would like.
it. I wrote 10 down, but then
Oh,
So I printed.
by the wayside.
We,
Yeah.
our extensions for 2020 are,
You didn't have anything, so.
it's 25 million. We
I didn't, I wrote it down, but I didn't put any.
Our income,
But finish it, discuss.
our income, that's the lowest spot. It's 20. It's, you know, it's like, can't imagine.
Oh, no, you know what it was? Let's see here. We can't have-
Yeah, oh.
Yeah, we were under the PD, I think it was over.
Highest in the county.
About 10 on the overtime. That was-
Willisville too, to compare, you know, because we're right next
That was,
door.
that's what, and I've got it listed under PD, so
I did all this.
that was due to take that. Take.
yeah, but it's not touching.
Well, 75, 75.
I just, Social Security.